During the Age of Gods, a time when mana flourished, in Greece in particular, Medea lives as a princess, the daughter of Aeetes, the king of Colchis, in a land on the eastern coast of the Black Sea. Her father is a talented magus, and as such, has her raised to be one as well. She is trained as a sorceress, receiving the teachings of Hecate, goddess of magic. At first, she lives a sheltered life as a king's daughter. She knows not of the outside world, and is content with her isolation, never yearning for freedom, nor longing for the vast world beyond her. Yes, she is satisfied living in the mountains as part of the country she loves. However, trouble brews from across the sea in the land of Iolcus. Jason, captain of the Argo and leader of the Argonauts, conflicts with Peleus, the man who usurped the throne from Jason's father. Their quarrels are settled with a promise of sorts. Jason is promised he may claim the throne in the event he returns from Colchis with their king's greatest treasure in hand, the Golden Fleece. As such, Jason sets out to Colchis, along with help from the goddess Aphrodite. With the arrival of the Argo, Medea's hopes of a peaceful existence are shattered. When Jason meets opposition, Aphrodite puts a curse on the innocent Medea, forcing her to fall madly in love with Jason. She betrays her father, steals the fleece, and flees the country as Jason's wife. Seabound, the king of Colchis pursues the Argo to rescue his daughter, causing the spell-struck Medea to conjure her magic and tear her own brother, Apsyrtus, into 8 pieces, scattering them across the water. Instead of furthering his pursuit, the king stays behind to collect his son's remains, allowing the Argo to escape. Despite this being a victory for the Argonauts, they feel an uneasy air being in the presence of a woman who is willing to betray her country and murder her brother. Collectively, they castigate Medea, seeing her as disgusting and filthy. However, this does not harm her, as her heart is still bound by Aphrodite's curse. The only support she cares for are Jason's words, "I'm sorry, but you've done well, Medea." This is all she needs to grant her the will to endure the hero's disdain, the regret of her betrayal, and guilt for murder. Sadly, these words never come. She never receives consolation from her husband. Jason returns home to his country of Iolcus, triumphantly with both Medea and the fleece in hand. Unfortunately, his return is ill-received. He discovers his parents are dead, and his reward for bringing the fleece is denied. Peleus, the king of Iolcus, slanders Jason's efforts, refusing to hand over the throne as promised. In a bind, Jason turns to Medea, commanding her to kill the deceitful king. Despite being bound to Jason's love, Medea is nonetheless shattered by her deed against her brother. The man who demanded so much from her without recompense now demands that she murder Peleus. Jason prepares this to be an assassination, inviting the king and his daughters to Jason's house. The naive king has already fallen for the trap, simply by arriving. In the center of the home is a witch's cauldron, bestowed onto Medea by Hecate. There, they watch Medea as she stirs the cauldron with tear-stained eyes. They are told the spell she conjures will be the secret art of rejuvenation. She stirs away, her hands getting heavier, recalling that she has never slept peacefully since she left Colchis. In truth, she hides within this fatigue, using it to avert her eyes from the atrocities she committed. Continuing the ritual, she cuts up an aged sheep and places it into the cauldron, stirring it until disappearing into the muck. A moment later, the sheep springs forth from the cauldron, revived into its youth by Medea's concoction. With proof of her ability on display, Peleus eagerly requests his own rejuvenation. Still following her husband's orders, Medea informs Peleus that he must also be cut into pieces first. The art requires him to first die. Unshaken, he orders his daughters to perform the deed. The 3 princesses cut their father to pieces and toss them into the cauldron. Suddenly, Medea cries out, I saw it! I saw it! Those fiendish daughters carving up their own father!" The princesses cry and scream as their father does not revive. Jason binds them, declaring that God will never forgive the sin of patricide and demanding they kill themselves in penance. The girls grieve, not to God, but to their father, begging for forgiveness. Jason ignores their plea, killing the otherwise innocent princesses. Cruelly, too late to take back her actions, the goddess's curse vanishes from Medea. It is undeniable. She became a witch, first in her own mind, and then in the public eye. Jason claims the throne of Iolcus, but his splendor is brief, as the people discover the truth and chase him and Medea out of the country. Left without a home to return to, the two roam Greece. Medea, no longer under the curse, feels that Jason is her only salvation, her only reason to live on. They eventually find themselves in Corinth, where the king of Corinth welcomes Jason and even offers him his daughter, Glauce, for marriage. Jason is urged to choose between marrying Glauce and becoming the future king of Corinth, or staying loyal to Medea while still receiving the king's protection. Despite her absolute loyalty, despite their time together, and despite the 2 children she bore for him, Jason immediately chooses the path of kingship, ignoring Medea's pleas. She begs him to stay beside her, if not only for the sacrifices she made for him. As harsh and ruthless as possible, Jason turns to her and affirms, "What are you trying to say? Was it not your fault that I lost my country? You terrible foreign witch. I never loved you even once." Betrayed, with nothing else to live for, Medea humbly yearns to go back home. Yet this is merely a dream of paradise. She returns to Colchis, and her people do not see the young princess, only a hideous witch. While the kingdom is just as she remembers, she herself has changed too drastically. She can never truly go back. Thus, on the day of Jason's wedding, Corinth falls, as Glauce is engulfed in flames, and the unfaithful husband is once again forced to wander. He ventures the sea before wrecking his ship and getting crushed to death by a fallen stem post while inspecting the damage. Medea, too, is left wandering Greece, gazing over yonder from the ashen shore of the ocean. In the end, she journeys home to die, while neither hero nor anti-hero. Medea's legend is recorded into the Throne of Heroes. In preparation for the 5th Holy Grail War, Medea is summoned as a caster servant under Atram Galiasta, a part European, part Middle Eastern magus, backed by the Mages Association. He seeks prestige for his newly established mage bloodline by winning the Grail. He presents himself as a wealthy, spoiled prince, surrounded by beautiful concubines, and intends to win the war by doing as little work as possible. His goal in the summoning is to harness the power of the Dragon of Colchis, but learns right away that Medea is unable to utilize such power. Thus, he berates her, claiming her to be weaker than the other servants. He shows off his workshop, a complex circle powered by mana drained from captive children. While he considers this setup powerful, he fails to understand just how powerful magic was during the Age of Gods. Medea easily outmatches his magecraft and demands they change locations to Fuyuki's Ryudo Temple, where the Greater Grail is to manifest. Again, her master disregards her talent and secretly plots to have her eliminated in favor of summoning a different servant. He returns to his workshop to find it in flames, destroyed from the inside by Medea, who had released the children. As punishment, Atram orders Medea to kill herself in futility. As a heroic spirit, Medea's divinity, as a witch of betrayal, manifests itself into her noble phantasm, Rule Breaker, a cursed dagger capable of severing master-servant pacts. She had already pierced herself with the Rule Breaker. She sets her former master ablaze before escaping the workshop. Without a master, she would soon disappear. Once again, treated as nothing but an untrustworthy witch, Medea awaits her final moments in the Grail War, her strength dissipating under the cold, pouring rain. Amidst the shower, her hand is grasped by another, the hand of a man named Soichiro Kuzuki. This passerby was born and raised in a mausoleum as a murderer for hire, functioning not as a human, but merely as a killing machine. He served a dark organization, growing up under the condition that he fulfill his function or otherwise be disassembled alive, transplanted into an animal, or fed to fishes. He never thought of murder as evil in the first place. Every day he trained in a fighting style known simply as Snake. He and all the other children of the organization were raised to kill a single target apiece and were expected to kill themselves upon completing their mission. He was to spend his entire life perfecting his technique for a single kill and would never be used again. Kuzuki's target was selected after 20 years. Naturally, he performed his duty. He felt nothing at all. He realized his years of training were hardly needed and found his apathetic self to be dull. Rather than committing suicide as ordered, Kuzuki withdrew from the organization and moved far away to Fuyuki City. There, he made use of the social training he received to be a teacher as a means of living. This simply became his new function, and nobody from the organization ever came to hunt him down. Kuzuki eventually takes up residence at Ryudo Temple, and, on his way home, finds Medea, drenched in rain and blood, off the path to the temple gate. He recognizes her as a murderer herself and looks after her in his room at the temple. His kind act is merely a response to someone in trouble, and he apologizes if his courtesy is actually a bother. Medea tells him of her past. With no reason to doubt her, Kuzuki accepts her and agrees to function as her master in continuing the battle. Medea plans on using him as a puppet, but soon begins to develop a sincere affection for him. In return, he develops a sincere desire to fulfill her wish of returning to her peaceful days in Colchis. The two, in a certain sense, save each other amidst the fighting. Medea makes Ryudo Temple her base of operations, and even summons herself an assassin servant, Kojiro Sasaki, to guard the gate. She plans to call forth the Lesser Grail via her own means by gathering enough mana from the people of Fuyuki and beyond. Her plan seems flawless, but this fades when Gilgamesh raids the temple and destroys her setup, defeating Assassin and mortally wounding Kuzuki with one of his noble phantasms. Medea runs to Kuzuki, desperately trying to heal him with her magic, but cannot undo the curse placed on him by Gilgamesh's weapon. As Kuzuki slowly dies, he finally admits that he regretted killing his first and only target, as he had no personal conviction to do so. He had tossed aside that life as a means of atonement, but that too was devoid of passion. Instead, he finds atonement in dedicating his life to Medea, his first completely self-motivated decision. This is perhaps the one thing that redeems him as a human being, and not merely a tool. Knowing that Gilgamesh will return for her, Kuzuki tells Medea to flee before dying. Medea makes a final effort to fight in the war, ambushing Shiro Emiya at his own estate, likely in an effort to recruit Saber using Rule Breaker. Sadly, as Kuzuki feared, Gilgamesh catches up and slays her with a rain of swords from his gate of Babylon. It seems, even still, that Medea's dreams are fated to remain as such, a tiring tragedy with a gleaming moment of salvation. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider supporting us on Patreon. We offer different reward tiers, including early access, video editing advice, and the chance to request your very own video. Also, check the description below to see our official Daikun t-shirts on sale. Also, don't forget to subscribe to OtakuDaiKun for more anime lists, reviews, discussions, lore videos, let's plays, and the holy waifu wars. Until next time, celebrate your fandom.